The LIVE program, Learning Integrity and Values Through Education, is a multi-pronged, community-based initiative designed to prevent crime, reduce violence in schools, clean up neighborhoods, and help improve the efficiency of police officers in carrying out their duties. Unfortunately, society tends to turn over all responsibility for crime to the police department. As a result, citizens sometimes blame governments for allowing criminal acts and for being ineffective in preventing crime. This places governments and police in an impossible situation. It is our belief that widespread public security cannot be achieved in this way. It can only be brought about when people assume responsibility for their communities, raise the general morals of their areas, and work with the police to create a safe environment. Let's look at the rationale behind this. Police officers routinely use force to alter behavior. While force can change people's actions, it rarely changes people's minds. When police leave, people tend to revert to their previous actions, as their minds were never changed. LIVE has been designed to give police and communities a workable approach to changing the minds of individuals who lower the quality of life for those around them through their antisocial acts. VIVE is the acronym that we use in the Spanish-speaking community, and it basically means the same thing as LIVE, Learning Integrity and Values Through Education. Police officers in troubled areas of Mexicali and Tijuana, Mexico, have successfully completed over 17,000 school children on the LIVE program. Additionally, over 1,200 police officers in the police academies of Tijuana and Mexicali, as well as employees of the police department, have studied the LIVE officer training program.
Este es un programa que va a la raíz del problema.
This is a program that goes to the root of the problem. This is a program that helps develop the personality of the kids. We are working through our instructors to help the parents with these difficult tasks and with the teachers on the work that they have to develop in the classroom. We have the experience and the knowledge in the streets working with gang members and drug addicts. We know we have to work to reinforce the values of the youth so they can recover their self-respect, so they can in the future contribute to the progress of our country, and so we can all have peace with their families and our society.
En el futuro puedan contribuir de una manera mejor para que este país progrese y sobre todo llevar un bienestar a sus familias.
People perhaps in the West don't necessarily look to Mexico generally to learn lessons about things like law enforcement and criminal justice and penology. But they are at the cutting edge. They are very much driving a revolution in criminal justice in Mexico. And I, for one, as a professional law enforcement officer, and incidentally an academic penologist, would like to congratulate them.
The program consists of 2 modules. Part 1 provides a low-cost tool to raise the general public's responsibility towards crime. It changes people's minds about unethical conduct in themselves and others. After implementation, police have less need to rely on force, as LIVE gives them an effective means of controlling others that appeals through reason. Officers and department staff are trained to deliver this program in schools and groups such as gang intervention programs. It consists of 27 one-hour classes that can be scheduled 1 hour a week or on a more intensive basis. During pilots in high-crime areas, teachers observed a significant shift in the social behavior of participating youth. Officers noted an improvement in the general attitude toward crime and moral conduct, as well as a sharp decrease in school violence in these areas. The LIVE program is directly linked to a decrease in criminal behavior.
The police department of Mexicali has identified the worst areas of the city and which schools are in these areas that require more attention from our part. The program VIVE is the answer for the actual problems in our city.
El año anterior nos permitió Last year, we were able to begin working with the students with problems with graffiti. For example, they had started to form gangs, and there was more and more violence between them, along with some other crime issues.
Pandillas comienzan a tener problemas de violencia entre ellos y algunas otras situaciones de violencia que se presentan con nuestros alumnos.
However, since we started with the Vive program, we decreased considerably these types of problems. It is noticeable if you visit our school that the graffiti is not a problem anymore.
Es notorio para todos aquellos que nos visiten aquí en la escuela el hecho de que el graffiti no es un problema aquí en la escuela, simplemente. Entonces, nosotros hemos visto que eso es producto del trabajo que están desarrollando.
This is the result of the good work of the Vive program and our teachers. We also have seen that the gang problem has been completely eradicated.
Los problemas de integración de pandillas también ha sido erradicado.
Esta formación la llevamos a cabo a través.
This phase of the program uses the book, The Way to Happiness from Mr. Hubbard, which teaches a non-religious moral code based on common sense. These principles can be used as a tool to help the kids to guide their behavior throughout their lives.
Herramientas principales para que los jóvenes se conduzcan en el transcurso de su vida y para toda la vida.
The second module of the LIVE program consists of training for the officers themselves. This section enhances the personal integrity of the officers and helps them to use better judgment in the exercise of force. Through intensive drilling to sharpen skills, they become adept at utilizing the correct amount of force for any given situation. It has been observed that some officers, through presence alone, can control those around them. Others, with less personal presence, tend to fall back on physical force. If these officers use too little force, they can be placed at personal risk. But if they use more physical force than appropriate, the public and the government is at risk.
El programa Vive le está
Vive provides the tools to help the cadets develop the techniques so they can handle conflicts, communications, and the proper use of force.
Y el uso necesario, estricto de la fuerza.
LIVE grew out of an effective prison-based rehabilitation system known as the Second Chance Program. This program evolved over a 5-year period in Mexico's infamous Ensenada prison, where over 90% of the inmate population were shooting heroin daily. Those walls housed some of the worst criminals in that state. Violence was so great, only fully armed guard units of 12 dared enter the prison courtyard. Not surprisingly, criminal recidivism stood at over 70%. The Second Chance program has reduced drug use in the prison by over 90%, and the amount of violence has decreased noticeably. Unarmed guards now walk alone through the prison yard, mingling with inmates. Guns and knives are almost gone. Even the inmate boss, who ran the inside of the prison, is a graduate.
I couldn't believe my eyes when I set foot in this place. It's populated by people that have killed on a number of occasions. It's populated by contract killers and the worst type of criminals you can possibly imagine. And what I found, interestingly, was when you walked in the place, you expected to be attacked, assaulted, mugged or murdered at any moment. But when you got into the Second Chance compound where the program operates, there was a feeling of calm and serenity, which was quite amazing. An oasis of calm in a jungle of danger and intimidation. Quite strange.
This was accomplished without strengthening traditional security measures. Instead, volunteers and staff helped inmates to change their minds. 5 years after release, studies show the Second Chance program reduced recidivism in participants to less than 10%. This was achieved with no follow-up support activities for inmates once released.
The criminal justice problem, issue, is a complex one, but essentially there are two parts to it as far as I'm concerned. One is to rehabilitate offenders who've already crossed the Rubicon into crime, to stop them offending again in the future. The other, and perhaps more important, is crime prevention, to stop young people entering into a life of crime, and that's where Viva comes in. The Viva program educates young people and gives them self-respect so that they value themselves such that they will not get themselves involved in crime. They can see that they are important, valuable members of society, even at that young age, and it keeps them from going down that slippery path into a life of crime. And that's something that we should all support. And now we've got the tools to be able to address crime prevention and rehabilitation.
Why are these methods so effective? To successfully rehabilitate a large number of hardened criminals, there must be an understanding of what makes a person become criminal in the first place. The LIVE program grew from this understanding.
I went to Whittier, I met this guy, and this guy introduced me with his uncle, right? He was a medium-class drug dealer, right? So he started giving me dope, and I started selling it, right? Then I started growing in the business, I started from selling quarters and half ounces, I started, dealing kilos, and I started growing in the business. You start getting connections here and there, And, at that time I didn't use drugs, I was just making money, But I keep living that life, and all of a sudden I started doing dope, I started snorting cocaine, and I remember one time we were in an apartment building, right? And there was all kinds of people buying dope from me right there. And there was this guy, he came to me all shaky, he was like all sick, he was going to the withdrawals, right? And he went up to me and said, "Come on, Eddie, can you please give me a little bit, I will pay you later, And I look at him and go, "Man, you see this guy, come on, well, you're going to do something for me if you want some dope." He goes, "Yeah, I would do anything, whatever it takes, And I remember I said, "I like your lady." He went up to me and said, "Well, if you want it, you can have her." And I just look at him and I go, no, it's all right. Later on I got something else for you to do, So there was this guy, it was my enemy right there in the area, he was selling dope too, right? And he wasn't, he was my enemy right there. I mean, I want the area just for me, because I was making enough money to come up in life, that's what I want from the beginning. So I sent him, to hurt that guy, and we burned his car and we hurt him so bad. I mean, now I think the right way, I think the guy, he's in the wheelchair, I'm not exactly what happened with him, but we hurt him real bad, and I thought I was the man, right? I mean, I have this wrong idea about life, I thought I was the man, I was eating the world belonged to me, All of a sudden I fell, I went to prison, I spent 3 years of my life in prison, and then they sent me back to Mexico. We organized a team, we're going to work together, People, they're going to grow weed over there, and then other people were going to bring them over down South Baja, and I was going to take it into the States and sell it over there, And we were doing it like that for a long time, We were dealing drugs to the States, 200 to 300 keys. It went up to 500 keys, We were doing it, I mean, every day we were taking weed over there. And then we started doing it with cocaine too. As soon as I got in contact with the dope, my life started going down, you know what I mean? I started shooting up heroin. And then I came here in Mexico and I got busted right here. So then I got to prison. If I'm here, I can get the power right here. I mean, I can still be Eddie. And yeah, I did that, you know, start bringing heroin over here. And I started dealing right here. I mean, I would start giving all the little drug dealers, I was supplying them with the dope.
Police do a very good job. The courts do a very good job getting a person convicted. Where the system breaks down is in the prisons. You do not have effective rehabilitation. Inmates go into the prison system and they come out worse.
Prisons are not rehab centers. You know what I mean? That's a big lie. Prison are universities of crime. You get hooked up, you get connections, you know what I mean? You don't go in there and rehabilitate yourself, you know? You know what I mean? That's a big lie, you know what I mean? I mean, you go in there, and what you do, you got to get in a gang, or you got to, I mean, just there, walk around.
The first thing I need to do in the past is when I got to prison is make money. I needed a house, I needed a car, I needed to move. So what I do, start selling drugs, running guns, start all the crime things all over again.
80% of inmates will come back within 1 year of being released from the prison. What business could sustain that statistic? None. So by the implementation of the Second Chance program, you turn the courts, the police, all of the vast billions of dollars being spent in the prison system into a success. And we've shown that this is possible in Mexico.
The Second Chance program is a prison-based rehabilitation system. It takes a prison and it essentially converts that into a rehabilitation center so that most of the people that go through that prison are rehabilitated before they go back out in life. We try to do something a little different with the Second Chance program. This is not just another program that works with a small percentage of inmates in a prison. It is not a program that admits only a small number of inmates who are heavily screened to admit only those whose profile is pre-selected for maximum chance of positive results. First of all, we have to handle their drug problem. Secondly, we handle their education problems so that they can actually learn something. Third of all, we actually work with them and help them rehabilitate and bring back their own personal self-respect. And lastly, they learn some basic life skills that then will help them be able to create a future for themselves when they get outside the prison. The initial pilot for the Second Chance program was run in one of the worst prison environments possible. Over 90% of the inmates in this Mexican prison shot heroin daily. Most had to continue to rob to support their habits. Funds for rehabilitation were almost non-existent.
This place used to be a jungle, man. I mean, they used to rob people every day here. Everybody used to carry knives. There was few guns right here before, you know, inside the prison. I mean, we had the power right here. We were dealing big time.
This prison housed inmates who were being held for sentencing alongside maximum and minimum security inmates. There was no separation. The corruption was rampant. From the beginning, we took inmates who fell within a cross-section of the prison population, rather than those whose profile helped guarantee a high rate of success.
I used to live in Salinas, California, like around 6 years, and I was a member of a gang, street gang, the barrios, you know, and we always been shouting some people from another barrio. And one time, one guy from Mexico, he gave me money, and he gave me heroin and a gun to kill a guy. When I ran away from Salinas, California over here, I only got one year over here in Ensenada, Mexico, and then because the same thing, because the drugs, I killed another guy over here in Ensenada, and then the police got me and they bring me over here to jail. And I thought I was born to kill. I say I already killed 3 people. I think that I was thinking that I was born to kill.
The Second Chance program was designed from the beginning to be a program that could be gradiently expanded within a prison, so that one day all the inmates that go through that prison would be rehabilitated. Not only rehabilitated from the use of drugs, but rehabilitated from a life of crime. Rehabilitated to the point that when they get released, they don't come back into the criminal justice system. They live their lives free of crime and drugs. They are an asset to the community instead of a continuing liability.
I used to don't respect nobody. I used to even doing bad things so can I get money out of them and everything, only to get drugs. And I thought I never was going to change. But then when I got out of the sauna and when I was passing to the books, I realized that my life could be a different life, that I could do something for me, something for my family, and something for society.
A lot of other drug programs substitute one drug for another. We don't substitute drugs, we eliminate drugs. It's actually too easy to get them off of an addictive drug, so why not just take them off? We feel that the high rate of recidivism, 60%, 70%, even 80% for most prisons, demonstrate to any observer that the approach used in that prison doesn't work. An inmate is degraded. He spends a lot of time with other criminals, learning ways to be a better criminal. He leaves that prison with an unstated yet renewed vengeance against society. He returns to society continuing his life of crime, a better criminal.
I started in Soledad, and then I went to Tracy, and then I went to CRC, then I ended up to go to San Quinn, then I went to Folsom, where I started using drugs in the institution. I never was a user in the streets. I started using drugs when I was in jail, in prison. I was there for almost 21 years. 20 years, 8 months, 2 weeks, 1 day.
Most Western governments spend more money annually on each inmate, with this end result than it costs to send a student to Harvard for a college education. We think that this system of making more violent and more proficient criminals works against the best interest of society. We've found that if a person doesn't have certainty that he can create a future for himself, he's got nothing to lose by being a criminal. All the prisons and the police cannot stop a person from being criminal. They can temporarily change his activity, but they can't change his mind. So when they force the influence of the prison or the influence of the police is no longer there in this guy's life, if he didn't change his mind, he goes right back to being criminal. So what we do is we work with that inmate, we get him to change his mind. But it has to be on his own self-determinism.
Even the worst guys that you see, they say, he's not changing, he's the one that changes. So it really, it's kind of stunning to know that the guy you see him, he's not going to change, and 3-4 months later down the road, you see him, he's like, God, he's a whole different person.
I never thought that I could pass in my life one day of not using drugs. Yeah, and I'm proud of myself, being clean for 3 years, and I'm gonna keep doing this because right here is my mind is changing, my dignity, my values, and now I value all the people, the human being. Something is happening in my life. Something good.
The Second Chance program is different in for my money, one fundamental way. It doesn't treat the people on the program as victims. It insists that they regain their self-respect and that they don't see themselves as victims and that they take control of their own lives. And that's the fundamental difference between the Second Chance program and any other program that I've seen.
Well, when you do something, the only person responsible is yourself. And if you think somebody else is responsible for your crimes, then you're wrong. Because you're never the victim. Everything what you do is because of you. You're the cause of it. And if you're going to do something, you got to be responsible and face up to the problems, the situation.
So we help them develop their basic life skills so that they can go out and not only have the ability, but this is key, the certainty that they can create a future for themselves. So then they go out, they do that, they create a future for themselves and for their families that's free of drugs and free of crime.
I thought that there was no ways for a heroin addict to change, you know? That's what everybody used, I mean, most of the people outside think that a heroin addict never is going to change, you know? And that's a big lie. Now I know that, you know? I mean, you have to treat them the right way. That's it, you know, the right tools.
I know that I cannot bring all the people, I mean all those people that I killed, I know that I cannot bring it back to life again, but I know, I'm really sure that if I keep doing this program, if I keep working on this, I could help people to save their lives because they're killing their life with drugs like I used to do it.
I supposed to write all the harmful things I did to people, right? But I didn't have none, you know? I ended up writing a whole book of it, you know what I mean? A big encyclopedia, you know what I mean? And that makes me feel good, you know what I mean? I don't know why, but I mean, all of a sudden, all the weight I have on my shoulders started going away, you know what I mean? And I start taking responsibility. I start saying, well, I know I did that, and I can be blaming myself because what I done in the past, I got to live in present time. And I got to do the right thing now to replace all the harmful things I did to people, you know what I mean? And I got to that point, I started realizing things, you know? And I still, and I realized that I was a responsible guy now, you know what I mean? I was more responsible, you know what I mean?
Man is basically good. And if a man can create his life exactly the way he wants it to be, then it's good. It's good for him, it's good for his family, it's good for his fellow man, it's good for society. So what we do is we help him improve his basic skills in how to create his life, how to be a cause in his life, how to be responsible for his life. So then when he creates his life, it's good.
I know who I really am, I know who I was, and I know who I want to be, and I realize what I want to be now in my life.
It's the answer, isn't it? It addresses the problem of recidivism. This is our biggest problem. If criminals just committed one crime or a series of crimes and then sentenced to a period of imprisonment and they went out and never went back to crime, we wouldn't have a problem. The problem is that it's pretty much the same people who commit crime after crime and are sentenced time after time. Now this program addresses that problem of recidivism.
The University of Baja, the Mexican Society of Criminology, and the National Penitentiary Association have evaluated the results of the Second Chance program. These results reflect the fact that some inmates we worked with were only in the prison for a week or two. Some were in there for a few months, while others had long-term sentences. Over a 4.5-year period, there were 1,004 inmates who were treated who were then released. They had no outside support activities. Of those who only did the detox, taking less than a week, 91 came back. Of those who also completed the drug rehab module, 14 came back. Of those who went on to complete the education module prior to release, 13 came back. Of those who finished the self-respect module, 6 came back. Of those who finished the entire program, 0 returned to prison.
So with those kind of statistics, they are absolutely fantastic. Now, the recidivism statistics in Great Britain are better than 50%. More than 50% of people that have served the term of imprisonment end up back in prison. Now, just imagine the kind of difference that this program could make if it were extended to our society in Britain. It would empty the prisons.
This program works, and they change their minds about their lifestyle, and that is the power of the Second Chance program.
So I know I'm a winner now in this life and with this program, with these skills, that I'm getting over here.
I used to be there, and I'm alive now, you know what I mean? And I don't care what people think now, you know, because I'm prepared for that, you know. I mean, that doesn't hurt me, you know. You know, I've been getting a lot of success in my life, you know. And everything I say, every word I say, it comes from the bottom of my heart, you know.
We used to lose a lot of opportunities in our lives and always being losers. Now, with this program, we could be winners.
What this program can do for a prison, we think, should be the goal of all prisons. We think that a prison that renews an inmate's self-respect, that improves his ability to live an honest life, that motivates him to help others rather than harm, that eventually reduces the cost of the prison system, actually works in the best interest of society.
I did think of one thing, and I've been dying to ask you this anyway. What did they say to you to get you to travel to a Mexican prison, risk your life?
Well, hardly. Yeah, no.
See something. What did they say?
Well, I have to thank Lord and Lady McNair for that. They explained to me about the program that was operating there, showed me a video, and that whet my appetite. Then I had to see it for myself because I just couldn't believe, really, in my heart of hearts, that that could be operating in those circumstances with all the chips stacked against them. I just couldn't believe that it could work. I was proved to be wrong. In fact, it did work. It's marvelous.